Making the decision to adopt a dog is a lifetime commitment. Most people who have a dog consider their beloved canine to be part of their family, so it's understandable why a family would be devastated when their dog couldn't be found. This family was heartbroken when they couldn't find their lost family member, and after a year of trying, they almost gave up. When Isla Robles was a child, her parents made sure that she grew up around dogs. So when she got married and had a family of her own, she knew that it wouldn't be long before they added a dog to the mix. And like so many other people, Isla just so happened to have a special place for Labradors in her heart. It didn't take much time for all the kids to fall in love with the yellow lab. After spending their nights playing with a tennis ball and long walks on Sunday mornings, the family developed an unbreakable bond with Lola. If you've ever bonded with a dog, then you can understand how important a connection like that is for a child. As Lola grew up with Joshua and Jesslyn, they spent every possible moment with each other. Actually, if you were to ask the kids what they thought about Lola, they would surely tell you that they thought of her as another sibling. A sibling with a wet nose and a furry body, but a sibling nonetheless. Like any other day, Josh and Jesslyn went outside one afternoon to play with Lola in the backyard. When the kids were ready to go inside, they called out for Lola, but unfortunately they couldn't find her anywhere. They decided to search for her, but when they came up empty-handed, they began to fear the worst had happened. Joshua and Jesslyn, who were frantic over not being able to find Lola, ran inside to tell Isla that they couldn't find their dog. With her husband by her side, Isla immediately raced out of the house and jumped into her car to search the neighborhood for a sign of Lola. Sadly, it seemed to be true that Lola had disappeared. A year had passed, and the family still didn't know where Lola had gone. They even tried asking some of their friends and family if they had seen her, but no one had a clue. Sadly, Lola was nowhere to be found, and the family was obviously heartbroken. The family couldn't come up with the answer as to where their beloved Lola could have gone. Did somebody find her? Was she living in another home with someone else's family? There didn't seem to be an answer in sight for the family. Well, that was until one morning when everything changed for the Robles. On that morning, the Robles family phone rang and Isla answered it. When she said hello, there was an unfamiliar voice on the other end of the line. Apparently, it was Dallas Animal Services, and they had some unbelievable news for Isla and her family. Isla was having a hard time believing what she was hearing. Dallas Animal Services was calling to tell Isla they had found Lola. Isla immediately got into her car and drove as fast as she could to the shelter. Could it be true? Did the shelter really find our Lola? As soon as Isla stepped foot into the shelter, she noticed a familiar face smiling up at her. There was Lola, standing right in front of her very eyes. Lola was wagging her tail because she knew it was a good day. She was finally being reunited with her family. Luckily, when Lola was a puppy, she had been microchipped by the vet's office. When she was brought to Dallas Animal Services, they were able to scan her microchip to find out who she belonged to. They immediately realized that Lola belonged to Isla, but Isla certainly had a few questions to ask first. The obvious question began to swirl around Isla's mind. First off, why did it take an entire year for the Robles to get Lola back? Where had Lola been the entire time? And why did it take her that long to show up at the shelter? As much as Isla wanted answers, they were going to be pretty hard to get. Clearly, Lola couldn't exactly explain her side, but she did look like she was cared for and well fed. The shelter workers assumed she had been living with another family for the past year. Even though Isla would never find out where Lola had spent the last year of her life, she was still overjoyed to have her dog back. Ecstatic, Isla couldn't wait to tell her family and greet them with the news. Joshua and Jesslyn were going to be even more excited than Isla was. After all, Lola was like a sister to the kids, and they still missed her every single day. Before Isla went home, she called the house to make sure their kids were there. She even thought ahead and put Lola in the back seat so the kids wouldn't be able to see her when she pulled up in the driveway. Isla became overwhelmed with excitement at the thought of surprising her kids with Lola. Joshua and Jesslyn immediately greeted Isla when she pulled into the driveway. They became curious as to why their mother wanted to know if they were home, and of course, what it was she wanted to show them. Soon enough, the kids had the answer that they had been waiting for a year. For just a moment, it seemed as if time had stopped for the Robles. Staring in awe, the kids couldn't believe what was happening when their best friend jumped out of the back of the van. Joshua couldn't stop hugging his longtime canine sister, and Jesslyn couldn't stop the tears from falling down her face. Everything felt like it was too good to be true, but for the first time, it wasn't. Finally, the Robles family was complete once again. In celebration, the family brought Lola for an epic play session. Lola was more than happy to be back home with the family who loved her. The fact of the matter still remains. The Robles have no clue where Lola had gone for the year. The truth is that most dogs that go missing never find their way back, so the Robles felt extremely lucky to have their favorite pup back in their lives. We're so happy that they were able to get Lola back. It's not easy losing an animal, but Lola found her way back to where she belongs. Please share this with your friends and family.